We are looking at the first railroad of Greensburg, Pennsylvania. It was called the Pennsylvania Railroad, which should surprise no one. And it involves a lot of stuff, much of which is too boring to talk about. But we will mention a few things that may be of interest. This was the town of Greensburg about 1840, some 10 years before the beginning of the construction of the Pennsylvania Railroad. This is my version of the town from up in the air above where Lynch Field now is. You're looking approximately southwest, and that dotted line shows you where the new railroad would be built or will be built. That little church is located in what we now know as St. Clair Park. One of the first tasks of getting this thing built was acquiring land rights. A fellow named James Clark, Esquire, was given the job of acquiring rights for land. And when he started his job, he brought some of the leading citizens of the town out to help him introduce himself to the folks. He brought Henry Clay Marchand and Simon Court and Samuel Coons and his own son, James Cunningham Clark, who became a prominent Greensburger. And here, this distinguished individual is trying to show you some of the area that they were walking through when they first started to do their solicitation with the locals. This guy is pointing out the Radabaugh Tunnel in an area of town that still has the name Radabaugh from a guy named Christian Radabaugh, who did not want any damn railroad running through his farm. He was so angry about it that the year after they ran their railroad through his farm, he went out and laid down in front of an oncoming locomotive and ended it all. He was extremely unhappy about it. The irony is there's a part of town west of the town itself called Radabaugh. This gives you an idea of what kind of hard work had to be done to build a railroad, because there were no bulldozers, there was no heavy earthwork moving equipment. There were simply these bands of Irish laborers who were getting about $1 a day with donkey carts and horse carts and wheelbarrows and scrapers pulled by horses. And that's how all this amazing amount of earth was moved. But before any of the land transactions happened, or before any of the earth moving happened, the surveyors had to come out and figure out where was the best place to build a railroad, because this was not easy territory to build a railroad through. The fellows out on the ground had to answer to the chief engineer, whom we shall see, but they had to do a lot of on-the-ground kind of work. I mean, it was not easy building a railroad at that time in the late 1840s, early 1850s, because they just didn't have all the nice facilities and vehicles that we have to transport us around, and they had a lot of open country and forestry to deal with. I mean, a lot of times their work was like this. They had a crew of axemen who had to cut down the trees so that they could do a bead from a transit to the target point and figure out the elevations and the angles where they were working on. Now this distinguished gentleman, if we can go backwards a second. Okay, thank you. That was John Edgar Thompson. He was the chief engineer of the Pennsylvania Railroad, and he was the guy that all the engineers sent their material to, and he decided where the actual road would run, which was no simple feat. By the time the railroad was finished in 1852, John Edgar Thompson was president. He had effected a palace revolution and taken over the company because he was annoyed that the guys in Philadelphia who were responsible for raising money were dragging their feet.